please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
This week on Storyboard, we get you all the action from Kyoorius 2018 Awards Night. And we also catch up with Anindya Ghosh, Heinz Rail Chair Professor of Business and the Director of Masters of Science in Business Analytics program, NYU's turn on the sidelines of Z-Melt. Hello and welcome to Storyboard. This is Shibani Gharat. The recently held Kyoorius Awards saw Ogilvy and Mather emerge as the biggest winner of the night. The agency took home a total of 27 blue elephants and 2 black elephants. One of the top winning campaigns for O&M during the night was Vodafone India's Sakhi campaign and the Reliance General Insurance Holi Not Hooliganism campaign. Both these campaigns also helped the agency win 1 black elephant each. Early Man Film was the second most awarded agency. They won 1 black and 6 blue elephants for their The Story of Kaveri initiative. The high point for the event was when the Master of Creativity Award was presented to Amitabh Bachchan for his immeasurable contribution to advertising communication. How did the rest of the night unfold? Let's find out as Ankita Saxena gets you the full report.
The 5th edition of Kyoorius Creative Awards was held on June 1st, 2018 at the Dome, NSCI. A total of 90 blue elephants and 5 black elephants were given out. The 5 black elephants that signified the best of the best were awarded to 4 teams. The black elephants winners were Ogilvy and Mather for Holi Not Hooliganism and Vodafone Sakhi. The agency also won the maximum blue elephants, reaching the count of 27. The other black elephant winners were Early Man Films for The Story of Kaveri, FCB India Group for Sindoor Khela No Conditions Apply, and BBDO India for Fuel for the Real Fit.
Of what Quaker as a brand can stand for in the country. Because it's truly the most healthiest brand that you can have. We call it the first source of energy in the morning. And we said to ourselves, there are lots of people talking about fitness. And there's this whole thing about 6 packs and, gym and all that. Well, what is true fitness? So we discussed true fitness because this product is really about true health.
A story like this hasn't been told because this blends mythology and ecology in one stroke, right? And this storytelling format has not been done anywhere. So I think that's what made it stand out, and the cause of water, because I mean millions of people depend on this as a lifeline on the river Kaveri, and till now, whatever has been spoken about this river has been to separate people. This is the first campaign that is a message of peace that calls people to come together to save a river.
Bollywood's legendary icon Amitabh Bachchan was honoured with Master of Creativity Award for his contribution to advertising and marketing. He also presented the black elephants to the winning teams. This year, the prestigious Power of Print Award, an IP owned by the Times Group, was presented to Curry Nation Brand Communication for their impactful print campaign, Lifeline Question.
The whole thought was, when we first read the brief, the first thought that came to mind was, you have to go and school the parents itself. And when you talk about schooling and learning in general, and when you incorporate the eating aspect, that is the apples, the bananas and the eggs in it, the first thing that comes to your mind is the equation that we all had in our schools. That is XYZ has 3 apples, he gives 2 of them to his friends. So that was what the insight was based on. And using that, we wanted to drive across the message that, hey, look, you are feeding your kids, but you actually don't know about the nutritional aspect of it. So we give you a challenge, and here are the equations, try and crack them. And if you are not able to do that, contact the Nestle nutrition experts who will help you, learn more about good food for your kids.
Continuing with the tradition of hosting an open jury session, the jury sessions were open for the creative community and media professionals to attend and witness the session in process. A specialist jury composed of the top creatives judged all submitted entries.
I was on the digital jury. I thought the entire process of evaluation was very, very well done. It was a great set of jurors. I love the quality of entries as well. You know, I've been into digital award shows before judging where I felt the quality of entries was not as strong as I'd like it to be. I'm happy to say this year it was really good. I think the quality of our work as an industry on digital is improving dramatically year on year. And I was really happy to see the entries.
The entries actually, like most times that I've been on a jury, in the initial phase it looks like, oh, there's a lot of work which is not that great. But as you keep sifting through them and as it keeps getting shortlisted, it keeps getting better. And by the end of it, I think what we've landed up with is really fantastic work. I liked the story of Kyoorius and I thought that was a wonderful piece of work, wonderful craft. I liked the work that was done for Vodafone for Sakhi. I thought that was an interesting piece of work.
You have to wade through a lot of like sort of bad work, some nice work and all that to find the gems. That's always the case. But the work that's shown really shone. So, you know, kudos to that. I think probably Ogilvy and Piyush once again have a big night. So they had most of the good entries, so kudos to them. The standout piece, it's very traditional and I know that's not in fashion, is the Seven Rivers, the Kyoorius. What, it's just, I mean, forget it as a piece of communication, as a piece of art, I'm blown away by it.
This year we were oxygen positive, not even carbon neutral, oxygen positive. So we planted over 22,000 trees in Chikmagalur to make sure that this award show, and we've audited this, juries flying in, you coming here, your cameraman, the lights, everything has been audited and we are oxygen positive. I'm happy to say that we are the only award show globally that is oxygen positive. Then we went on to say, can we institute a Master of Creativity Award? I hate calling it a Lifetime Achievement Award because that means that somebody is dying or something like that, right? So we called it a Master of Creativity Award. And the jury that we had, which is a secret, and they came back and said, let's award it to one person who's not in advertising, but has been hugely influential in shaping up the advertising industry, in bringing some kind of momentum into the advertising industry. And they chose Amitabh Bachchan. And thankfully, he agreed when he heard about why the award is, and he said, oh, that's great, let me come. And he agreed, and he was here, and I think I was very happy that that happened.
Kyoorius Creative Awards concluded on a high-octane note with Ogilvy and Mehta sweeping most of the awards and emerging as the clear winner. Amitabh Bachchan's chat on his journey with brands and advertising was the high point of the event.
In the lead up to Netcore and CNBC TV18 MarkTech Marathon 12x25, we are speaking to a few marketers who use tech in their marketing efforts in today's complex world. And speaking of tech, we caught up with Anindya Ghosh, Heinz Rail Chair Professor of Business and Director of Masters of Science in Business Analytics Program NYU Stern, on the sidelines of ZMelt. He spoke to us about the problems that the marketers face and what should be the key focus areas for them. We asked him, should the Indian marketer be worried about blockchain? Let's hear the full conversation to find out his reply.
Anindo, thank you for talking to CNBC TV18.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So to begin with, the big question. In your view, what are the 3-4 things marketers should focus on right now?
So I would say, let's start with the mechanism, which is mobile. I think it's incredibly important for them to focus on mobile, how to make use of it, what kind of investments to make, what are the targeting strategies in mobile. Number 2 is the imminent advances in artificial intelligence and analytics. Once you have a mobile strategy, is to think about how you can use data and artificial intelligence. And the third thing is blockchain. Blockchain is going to be a game changer, and I can tell you more about that.
Right. Now, if we go through one by one, we talk about mobile first.
Yeah.
Here in India, we wonder whether it's just crazy numbers that we hear, 450 million and 550 million, 650 million and so on and so forth. Yeah. But does it really move the needle as far as sales are concerned? Yeah, if you can join those dots, yeah?
So, one of the incredibly important but notoriously difficult problem to solve for marketers is this notion of attribution.
Right.
Attribution is this idea that, a consumer goes through multiple touch points in the path to purchase. And if you're trying to evaluate the return on investment on your dollars, you've got to look at the entire journey as opposed to the last touch point, which is what a lot of marketers end up doing.
Right.
So to your point about mobile being overestimated quite often, what happens is those marketers who are saying, mobile investments are not, justified, what they'll end up doing is they are only looking at mobile as the last touch point before the final sale, and that number turns out to be a small number of 4 or 5%.
Right.
But many of the studies that I've done, we have actually shown that if you look at the influence of mobile across the entire path to purchase, then up to 40% of all transactions, including offline transactions, are actually influenced by mobile.
Right.
In other words, I might see an ad on my mobile device first, and then I go and buy it offline. But had I not seen that ad, I probably wouldn't have bought it anyway.
So, okay, we come to attribution. How difficult is it to sort of segregate the influencers to decide on attribution?
So it is a difficult problem, but it is something that can be successfully done in a condition on marketers thinking about it the right way. For example, one of the cleanest way of looking at attribution is to do what we call these simple randomized field experiments. Think about a simple A/B testing experiment. Okay? You make one small tweak in the creative or the placement of your ad, and you examine the effect of that before and after. Okay? So we've done this now for a number of different companies, and they work. So attribution used to be this very mystic thing before, but now many people, both academics and practitioners, have successfully demystified it. So it actually works. So that's why it makes me say that it is something that can be done.
Right. So now, how complex is the journey, the customer journey, like you're talking about, compared, say, 15 years ago? It was a very simple sort of journey to map, and now it's supremely complex, especially the moment of truth, if you will, and it could lots of triggers.
Sure.
How do you start measuring these complexities? Because you'll have 15 steps where there were only 3.
Yeah, so you're right. So the number of touch points have increased dramatically. Earlier we had TV, radio, print, and then that was the final sale. And now beyond the 3, we have billboards, we have search engines, we have social media, mobile apps, display ads, and all of that. The good news with a large fraction of these is that because they're on the digital front, this data about consumer behavior is actually being captured.
Right.
So earlier, we didn't have access to that sort of information. Now we actually see at a very atomic granular level the specific actions that a consumer takes, okay, what he's exposed to and what does he do after. So we have the data is very rich, which is what makes it feasible to actually execute some of these attribution analysis. I wouldn't say by any means that we have completely nailed it, but I can say that we've made tremendous progress where now we can actually have meaningful conversations about attribution.
Right. Now, let me jump straight to your point number 3, which is blockchain.
Yeah.
Which is blockchain. To me, when I think of it, I think more of the block than the chain. It sits on me like a weight.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing most marketers go through.
Right.
Saying, should I worry about it today, or is it something, if we go through Gartner's curve of hype or something like that, you say blockchain seems some years away, yet there are others who say no, blockchain is here and now. So tell me, should a marketer in India even bother about blockchain for the moment?
Absolutely yes.
Absolutely,
and I'll tell you why.
That's a very, very vociferous absolutely yes.
Yeah, so it's backed by some work that I'm doing. I'm actually working with some companies and trying to figure out how to use blockchain for marketers. I recently wrote an article about this. It was published in the Harvard Business Review. And what I basically argued in that article is, if you look at the consumer and the marketing pain points today, on the marketer side, the biggest pain point is the lack of transparency in how their ad dollars have been spent, right? So you see numerous stories where, a P&G goes to an agency and the agency has to be able to explain how the money is being spent, but they're not able to explain. There is tremendous lack of transparency. Okay? Blockchain, by its nature, the distributed ledger system, will actually bring in this much needed transparency. It will actually alleviate issues of ad fraud, like who's clicking on my ad? Is it even a human being or is it a bot? Issues like domain spoofing, where you think your ad is going to show up in, I don't know, Times of India, but it shows up in some completely bogus website. Those issues are going to be mitigated, because that's what the definition of blockchain will do. It will just make the entire transaction much more transparent. On the consumer side, the biggest pain point is an overwhelming number of very annoying ads that keep showing up, the ads that keep following you. And the real reason is this ecosystem, despite having access to all of our data, hasn't been able to stitch it together, right? So we have data, but they are in silos. What the blockchain will do is actually remove those impediments in stitching our profile. And eventually a brand would know that, okay, so when as a hobby, I do mountain climbing. I should only see ads for hiking gear. Okay? That's what the blockchain will enable. It will actually bring in this transparency on both the advertiser and the consumer side.
Right, but finally it is a distributed ledger. You need everybody to sort of tick boxes each time there's a transaction. So it requires the ecosystem to embrace blockchain. Right. Unlike other things which I could do unilaterally.
Sure.
So tell me, what are the impediments to that happening?
Sure. So the number one impediment is speed, and I'll tell you,
cost.
Cost will eventually, you're right about cost, but cost will actually dissipate over time. But the speed issue is something that I'll elaborate in a second. Programmatic marketing, which is this real-time auction of ads being bought and sold in the digital space, that happens in milliseconds, right? On any regular day, in a country like US or India, we have billions of ads being bought and sold. Now, up until recently, one of the limitations of blockchain was the speed at which transactions are validated on a blockchain, such as Ethereum-based transactions, takes about 10 seconds. Right. So now you're talking about a disconnect between milliseconds and 10 seconds.
Sure.
The good news is now we have some new innovations in blockchain. There are companies like Lucidity that are using something called plasma subchains, which is a far more faster, speedier version of blockchain, where now they can validate transactions within milliseconds. So that big problem where programmatic marketing could we wouldn't be able to validate transactions rapidly, now we've actually been able to solve through blockchain. So, which is what makes me think that this is no longer one of those hype cycles. This is real, it's already here. Vendors are putting things together. But going back to your point about complexity, the other impediment is to make this more scalable. Every single entity in the ecosystem has to adopt this standard. From your advertiser to publisher, there are entities like demand-side platforms, supply-side platforms, ad exchanges, trading desks. Everybody has to adopt it. Now, if you're a big company like Google or Facebook or Verizon, since you own the entire programmatic stack, you will actually do it just like that. Right. But if you are a smaller player, then it's going to be non-trivial, because you have to convince the other third parties who you work with to adopt this. So, to summarize, my prediction is the bigger players will do it much more quicker because they have the mechanism to deal with this efficiency. The smaller players will take longer time.
Right. Now, one is bigger and smaller players. Is it also larger unit price of the category and smaller unit price that it becomes more important? For example, should a auto manufacturer embrace blockchain faster than a soap manufacturer?
Sure. So I think you raise a great point, which is about this difference between premium ads and commodity ads, right? So an auto manufacturer or a manufacturer of high-end designer products, because of the low frequency with which people actually buy these things, these are called premium ads because these ads cost a lot, right? So the ad for a Rolex or a Breitling watch ad to show up on CNN.com would be far more expensive than, let's say, a Starbucks ad showing up on the New York Times. So in programmatic marketing also we make a distinction. Premium ads are often still actually bought and sold manually, not programmatically, right, simply because they're so much more valuable.
Real estate, valuable real estate, yeah. Sure.
Commodity ads, almost 70% of commodity ads are now sold programmatically. So in terms of adoption, my best guess, reasonably educated guess, is going to be the commodity ads are going to adopt it first, simply because they have a lot more frictions to take care of. The premium ads will wait and watch and then eventually get there.
Arinder, tell me, what do you think of the adoption of technology in India in the context of marketing?
So I'm seeing tremendous use cases, very, very positive, interesting use cases of ad tech being adopted, right? So we've seen programmatic marketing take off in India. I think there's a difference in scale between where it is in India versus the US or China, but it will eventually get there. I see tremendous pool of talent, people who are hungry to make a difference, whether it's an artificial intelligence or machine learning. There's some very interesting startups coming out of India. And in fact, I wouldn't even call them startups because they're very established now, Latent View, Mu Sigma, Fractal, and so on. So the ecosystem is now ripe for actually making a non-trivial difference, because from the technical side, you've got a tremendous talent of pool of people. The marketing side, I've seen increasingly managers are open to having this hard conversation about analytics and using analytics to drive decisions as opposed to pure intuition and gut. It's slowly but steadily changing in the right direction.
Okay, I'm going to close with, are you going to see more consultancy assignments in India for you?
I have done this all over the world.
But are you going to see more in India is the point?
I would love to, if it comes to my way.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, it's a wrap on Storyboard this week. You can catch all of our content on Facebook, Twitter and YouTube. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back same time next week. See you soon.